Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Thursday, January 25th. If you are joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. We'll go over to RotoWire, talk through the injuries and play for tonight's main slate. It's going to be a 7-game main slate in total, which is actually a pretty big slate for a Thursday just in general. We have 4 teams in total that will be on the back-to-back for today's slate as well. And then we'll get over to DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks on both sites. It's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. So on the DraftKings side, at point guard, we had DeJounte Murray, $8,400, looking for at least 42 points on him, got to 44.25, so he was a hit on yesterday's slate. Then at shooting guard, we had John Conchar, $4,000, looked for at least 20 out of him, got to 31.5, so he was a really good hit yesterday. He benefited quite a bit just with Luke Kennard being out. Obviously, Jacob Gilyard got the start. It also looks like Scottie Pippen Jr. is all of a sudden on this Memphis Grizzlies team, which is kind of interesting, kind of another point guard out there for them overall. And then we move down to small forward with Nickeil Alexander-Walker at $4,200, looking for 21 points on him, got to 22.25, so he ultimately ended up being a hit again. And then at power forward, we went with Josh Green, $4,300, looking for 22 points out. He got to 18. He was a mess. Played 31 minutes in this game. It was a blowout, so he probably could have played a couple extra at the very end as well, which probably would have got him over the edge. So it wasn't a terrible day for him overall. It was just not quite what we needed in terms of his point scoring. And then at center, we had Alfred Sengun, $8,300. You're looking for at least 42 out of him, got to 57.5. So he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. Looked like one of the better centers overall. But with that being said, a pretty good day overall on DraftKings, 4 out of 5 in terms of the hits. If you had some other decent plays, still had a pretty good chance of cashing overall. So definitely was a productive day on the DraftKings side. Then on the FanDuel side, it was a little bit more unfortunate, kind of a pickle of a day overall. So we had LaMelo Ball at $9,800, looking for 49 out of him at the very least, got to 31.3. He was a mess, played 32 minutes in this game. He was 6 for 21 shooting from the field overall, 1 for 8 from 3, and ultimately did foul out in this game. So it was just a very unfortunate day for him overall. Did like the upside that he could present versus the Detroit Pistons, who have really struggled against that point guard position in terms of giving up points this year. So was unfortunate there. And then we move down to shooting guard. We went to Nickeil Alexander-Walker at $4,900. Luke Kennard was the pick early on in the day. He got ruled out. Obviously, we had no Mike Conley. Nickeil Alexander-Walker looked pretty decent at that point in time. Looking for at least 25 out of him, got to 22.5, so technically he was a miss. 31 minutes on him yesterday, only 2 for 4 shooting from the field. So he got a couple of rebounds, got a couple of assists, got a couple points. But, if he just gets a couple extra shots in this game, probably looks even better for him overall. Then small forward, we had Brandon Miller, $6,700, looking for 34 points on him. Got to 38.4, so he was a hit once again on yesterday's slate. And then at power forward, we had David Roddy, $4,500, looking for 23 points on him. Got 25.6, so he was a hit as well. And then last but not least, we had Jalen Duran here at $7,200. Did like him a bit in this matchup yesterday. We were looking for at least 36 out of him, got 25.6, so he did ultimately end up being a mess. Only played 25 minutes in this game, so it was kind of Isaiah Stewart that took more of those minutes over at that center position yesterday for whatever reason. So it was an unfortunate day for Jalen Duran overall. So like I said, on the FanDuel side, not quite as good a day there. Obviously, if you had some other really good plays, you might have been able to pull it out. But at the same time, probably would have been a little bit more difficult just in general. But with that being said, we're looking to bounce back in a pretty big way today. And I think it's going to be a decent slate to do it overall. And there could be some decent values that do pop up throughout the day. And with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about those injuries in play for tonight's slate. Once again, it is a 7-game main slate. We got 4 teams there on the back-to-back. Some teams that don't have very many injuries to talk about at this point in time, while we have others that have quite a few and could open up some value as the day moves along. So for the Philadelphia 76ers, we got Mo Bamba, Robert Covington, and DeAnthony Melton all out once again. Marcus Morris and Jane Springer, both this is probable to play. Both did miss their most recent game. And then we have Tobias Harris listed as questionable for tonight's slate with an illness at this point in time. If he were to miss, probably going to be Marcus Morris starting in his place. Could ultimately end up being like a Patrick Beverley and move Kelly Oubre down to that small forward position. But we'll just have to see as the day moves along if that becomes the case. Then for the Pacers side, we got Tyrese Haliburton out. He's going to be out, I believe they said, the next 3 games, and then he's going to be reevaluated. And then we have Jalen Smith listed as questionable due to a back injury, so we'll see whether or not he plays tonight or not. Obviously, just really matters for that backup center position behind Miles Turner in general. For the Utah Jazz, they appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. The Washington Wizards are on the back-to-back. We did see Isaiah Livers miss yesterday, so we'll see if he's out once again, and then if anybody else does pop up on the injury report throughout the day. The Boston Celtics appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. The Miami Heat are on the back-to-back. We've seen Jaime Jaquez miss yesterday. He's missed quite a few games with this groin injury as of late. And then Kevin Love typically has been sitting on the back half of back-to-backs this season, so probably not going to see him tonight overall, but doesn't really make too big of an impact overall. Then we move down to the Minnesota Timberwolves, another team that's on the back-to-back. We'll see whether or not they have any injury updates throughout the day. Probably going to see Mike Conley play today since he did not ultimately end up playing yesterday. They have rested Rudy Gobert at times on back-to-back, so that would be something to keep an eye out on as well. Would open up some value in Kyle Anderson or Naz Reid for tonight's slate overall, potentially both at the same time as well. Then for the Brooklyn Nets, they're without Day'Ron Sharpe, Ben Simmons, Dariq Whitehead once again, so no real changes from that perspective. Cam Johnson is listed as questionable for tonight's game with a shoulder injury. We'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up playing. If he doesn't play, it obviously opens up more minutes. Royce Lewis would probably start in that case. Maybe it's Cam Thomas, maybe it's Lonnie Walker. All 3 of those guys would see significant increases in their minutes for tonight overall if Cam Johnson is unable to play. Then we move over to the Denver Nuggets. Carr and Strother both out once again, and then Reggie Jackson is listed as probable to play for tonight's game due to a toe injury, so would expect him to play once again. And then on the New York Knicks side, we got Mitchell Robinson out once again. Isaiah Hartenstein listed as questionable. Initially, they said it was an ankle injury. Now it's been marked as Achilles, so we'll just have to see whether or not he plays as the day moves along. That's probably going to make a pretty big impact for this Knicks team and for Nikola Jokic on the opposite side once again as well. If it's not Hartenstein out there, you got Precious Achiuwa and Jericho Sims. I think Nikola Jokic probably going to have his way with them, probably going to have his way with Hartenstein too, but maybe a little bit more of a tougher matchup at that point in time. Hartenstein did spend some time with the Nuggets, so he knows a little bit of Nikola Jokic's tendencies at that as well. Then we move down to the Sacramento Kings. Sasha Vechenko is out for them tonight. Sounds like he's going to be out for a little while with an ankle sprain. And then the Golden State Warriors are on the back-to-back as well. We'll see whether or not they rest some guys tonight or not. It's been something they typically do in the past. A lot of times Klay Thompson won't play on back-to-backs. At least that's what he did a lot of the times last year. He's been a little bit more hit or miss in terms of that so far this season. So we'll just have to see what that looks like as the day moves along. And then we move over to Chicago Bulls. Torrey Craig, Zach LaVine both out once again. And Patrick Williams listed as probable to play with that ankle injury, but he's been back for a couple games now at this point in time. And then on the Lakers side, we got Cam Reddish and Gabe Vincent both out. LeBron James is technically listed as questionable for tonight's game. He did miss their most recent game, so that'll be one that we're keeping an eye on throughout the day that will have a pretty big impact overall. We did see Rui Hachimura start in his place in their most recent game, and then Anthony Davis technically listed as questionable, but do expect him to play once again tonight. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's slate. As always, I'll be listing any injury updates that do happen throughout the day down in the comments below, as well as those starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. So definitely make sure you're checking back in as we do get closer to locks so you have the most up-to-date information as possible. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So at the point guard position, we're going to start off with Colin Sexton. He is $6,600. You're looking for at least 33 points out of him. He's been playing extremely well as of late. They're going against the Washington Wizards today. It's a really good spot. It's a pace-up spot. The Wizards don't play much defense. They don't play that great overall. The Jazz are coming off a game where they did get their pants blown off pretty good, so they're probably going to want to return the favor to Washington just in general. And, they had been playing really well up until that point, so do expect Colin Sexton to go out there and have a pretty good game once again. Looks like a really favorable matchup for him. Like I said, you're looking for 33 points out. Currently, I'm projected for 36 tonight. Does have some upside for more at the same time as well. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Alex Caruso, $5,100, looking for 25, 26 points out. He goes against the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, which is a revenge game for him if you're into that narrative. So that is something to write home about. He's played really well so far this season. Definitely do like him at that $5,100 price tag. Currently, I've been projected for about 27, 28 points tonight on the DraftKings side, so definitely looks like one of the better value plays at that shooting guard position. He's going to be out there playing a good amount of minutes, doing a little bit of everything with no Zach LaVine out there, so definitely a guy that I do like getting a lot of exposure to today overall. Then at small forward, we're going to go with OG Anunoby once again. only $5,700. So we're looking for 28, 29 out of him. Pretty much what he's been doing so far on the season, so far since he's been with the Knicks. And if you look at the last 5 games, pretty much outperformed that price tag more times than not. So definitely do like him once again today. A little bit of a slower matchup versus Denver today, which, the Knicks play pretty slow. They play a lot of defense. Denver plays a similar way, so definitely could be a slower pace matchup, a lower scoring game overall, but still like him in the minutes that he has the potential to play once again tonight. And then at power forward, we're going to go with Patrick Williams here. He's $4,500, looking for 22, 23 points out. Looks like just a decent value play at this point in time. He has re-entered that starting lineup, played decently well since Zach LaVine's been out, so like the upside that he does present today overall. Looks like a really good value pick. Maybe it's a pick that changes throughout the day if we do get some other value opening it up. But, looking for 22, 23 points out. I'm projected for about 25 tonight, so just looks like a decent value at this point in time. Like I said, it is one that could potentially change throughout the day as well. Then last but not least, we're going to the center position. We got Nikola Jokic here today, $11,300. Looking for 56, 57 points out. He's averaging 60 so far on the season. Looks like a pretty favorable matchup for him personally versus the New York Knicks. Like I mentioned with OG Anunoby, probably a slower pace matchup, maybe a little bit lower scoring game. But Jokic has been playing more minutes as of late, which obviously is a good thing for us and for DFS purposes. And if he does that once again tonight, and it's against Jericho Sims, if it's against Precious Achiuwa, he's, I can't reasonably project him for that. But I think 61, 62 out of him tonight is definitely doable, but definitely has a ton of upside for more once again as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $16,800 remaining, $5,600 per player. So looking a little bit more like a bounce build type of day at this point in time. Once again, there's a lot of news that will be coming out as the day moves along, so potentially some values that could pop up throughout the day. So definitely make sure you're checking up on those injury updates throughout the day, as well as my updated core. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side, we're looking at a little bit tighter pricing as it kind of typically is over there. I like DraftKings pricing just a little bit better in general. But we're going to talk through some guys. Some of these picks may or may not change as the day moves along. So definitely make sure you're checking up on that updated core, especially for the FanDuel side today. We're going to start off at the point guard position with Andrew Nembhard, a guy that I typically do not play too much. So he is $5,100, assuming that he gets the start for the Pacers, assuming he gets, like 27, 28 minutes tonight, and TJ McConnell gets, 20 to 22. That is probably going to be the case more likely than not. But if it kind of flips the other way, then maybe you want some exposure to TJ McConnell because he is the better fantasy point per minute guy. But Andrew Nembhard getting the start, playing decent sized minutes, $5,100, looking for 25, 26 points out of him tonight. That's kind of what I have him projected for. It's a decent matchup versus Philadelphia 76ers. He's not a guy that goes out and gets a lot of points or anything else like that. But, a guy that can facilitate some of this offense, a guy that can do a little bit defensively, just kind of contribute in a couple different categories, just a cheaper option that is available to us at that point guard position on FanDuel. Definitely a pick that could change throughout the day as we do get some other news as well, though. Then at shooting guard, we got Alex Caruso once again. So $6,000, quite a bit more expensive on the FanDuel side as opposed to DraftKings. However, on FanDuel, you get the extra points for blocks and steals. So you get 3 points instead of 2. And that's something that Alex Caruso does contribute in very well. I think he's going to go out. I think he's going to play pretty big minutes tonight. If you get him for 32 minutes, he's a guy that's probably going to get you like 0.93 or so fantasy points per minute. So a guy that's going to get you right around that 30 points that you're looking for out of him. If he has a bigger steal or block game, or if he's knocking down his shot, scores a couple extra points tonight, he's going to look like a pretty good play overall. And with that being said, currently I have him projected right around 29, 30 points in terms of the median projection. There obviously is a little bit upside for more at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to small forward with Jonathan Kuminga, and he is $6,100, looking for 30, 31 points out. He's been playing really well for this Golden State team as of late. Going against the Kings tonight, it's a pace-up spot. It's a very favorable matchup. And you also have the added-in factor that, he's one of these younger players on this Golden State team. So if they rest guys tonight like Steph Curry, like Klay Thompson, like Draymond Green, maybe even Andrew Wiggins, then he's going to get some extra minutes. He's going to get some extra run. He's going to get some extra usage. He's going to get a couple extra shots. He's going to look really good overall. So definitely do like him once again tonight. Currently I'm projected for about 31 points. Definitely has some pretty strong upside for more if he's going out there, if he's playing really well, and some of those other guys ultimately do end up resting on tonight's slate overall. Then at power forward, we're going to go with Lauri Markkanen. He's $8,400, looking for at least 42 points out of him. It's a favorable matchup tonight versus the Washington Wizards. The Wizards typically do struggle versus the forward spot, whether it's small forward, power forward. So Lauri Markkanen definitely fits that bill. It's a pace-up spot just in general. Utah's coming off that really bad loss, like I mentioned, with Colin Sexton on the DraftKings side, so they're probably going to want to lay it on Washington pretty good tonight, and they had been playing really well up until that point. Lauri Markkanen, up into his last 2 games, he had been easily outperforming this price tag, so do kind of expect that once again tonight. Currently, I'm projected for about 44, 45 points, but definitely does have some pretty strong upside for more as well. And then last but not least, at the center position, we have Domantas Sabonis. He's $10,200, so he's a guy historically throughout his career. It seems like he's been a little bit up and down versus Golden State, but, Golden State, especially like if Steph Curry doesn't play tonight, if Klay Thompson doesn't play, Draymond Green doesn't play, it's going to be a pretty favorable matchup for Sacramento just in general. It's a pace-up spot for both these teams. Obviously, Golden State is not as great defensively as they once were. They're not playing Kevon Looney out there too many minutes just in general. Maybe that changes tonight versus Sabonis, but there is a pretty good upside for him tonight overall. He's been playing really well as of late. $10,200, you're looking for at least 51 points out of him. He's averaging 48 so far in the season. But like I said, he's been playing really well as of late. Do like the upside that he presents tonight overall. Currently, I'm projected for 52 points. It's a little bit tougher with all these great centers out there tonight, whether it's him, whether it's Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, or Anthony Davis. And then, heck, even Bam Adebayo's on the slate as well. Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. So many different centers that have some pretty strong upside. But with that being said, I do like Sabonis the best so far on the FanDuel side tonight overall. Obviously, if you want to get up to Nikola Jokic, you can definitely do that as well. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here on the FanDuel side for tonight, you have $24,200 remaining, just over $6,000 per player. So looking a little bit more like a bounce build day once again. But obviously, as we do get some of the injury updates, as we do get some of the news coming in throughout the day, could be some values that do open up. So definitely be on the lookout for that updated core about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, January 25th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing all the injury updates down in the comments below, as well as the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the night. And then, once again, my updated core will be posted about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock as a pinned comment, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If there's no changes to the core, it'll just be a pinned comment saying no changes to the core at this point in time. And then if there's any other additional changes after the point of me posting the updated core, I will leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we just have NBA DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Parlay Play and Prize Picks, it's 100% of your initial deposit up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% of your initial deposit up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there if you are interested in getting into sports betting or prop betting just in general. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.